Next order of business is the roll call of members. Please indicate your presence when the machine is open. If all the members voted, tally the roll.
I'm Earl Harris. Welcome to another edition of Sessions. We are joined today by someone you probably have seen on television in other outlets, but let's be honest, this is the best outlet that you'll ever be part of. We are joined today by Allie Bartlett. She is a registered lobbyist, and we're going to talk about what that means. And she's with Bose Public Affairs Group. We're going to talk to her about different clients, different initiatives that she focuses on in the legislature and working with us representatives and senators. Allie, I have been waiting for this day for a long time.
I have been waiting for this day for a long time. I mean,
Allie's been talking about this day for a long time.
I mean, if we're going to ask Representative Johnson, I forced my way onto this show, but
but let's be honest.
This is a hostage situation.
The jury is out.
Well, that's only
we can operate it that way.
That's only because Allie and I were supposed to do a podcast first, and you bogarted your way
I
in.
will say the original idea for all of this was us.
Well, yeah, except I started my podcast without either of you. To great fanfare, and it's only grown. It's grown.
Is that your wife and child?
My wife's never listened to an episode.
But I did hear you say before we started that the viewership has just through the roof
increased
since the addition.
It has increased
Of the one and only Earl Harris. And
that
was originally our idea. Exactly.
Where can I
think
go?
We should have you on every month.
And then someday we will run on a split ticket.
There you go.
I think everyone should know this is a very large room, so I could escape.
The only problem is we'll probably argue over who'll be the top of the ticket.
Oh, no, we know who it'll be.
Me.
Yeah.
Okay. So 100%. Anyway, moving back to reality here. All right. So I called you a registered lobbyist, which means something. Tell us exactly what does it mean to be a registered lobbyist versus just a lobbyist?
Yeah. So the term lobbyist is really like the term of art there because that's a different term that's defined differently in every state and at the federal level. So I think this is actually a good little learning lesson for people and sometimes can get people in trouble. So like I'm really just providing education to everybody today. There is a defined term, lobbying and lobbyist, in Indiana code. And basically what it says, Cliff Notes version, is that if you are compensated a certain amount for communicating with elected officials on a topic that is actively being considered in legislation, then you have become a lobbyist and you are required to register with the Indiana Lobby Registration Commission. So anyone who's coming to the State House just like on their own personal accord, they took PTO from work, like this is just something they're passionate about, and they're coming to meet with you guys about a bill, that's not lobbying because they're not getting paid for it. But then where people kind of get in trouble a lot of times are people that like work for a company and their company or, you know, personally in their role with the company, they might be interested in something. They come and meet with you guys and talk about it. But if like they're on the clock and they're getting paid at that time, they could cross the threshold and become a lobbyist and then they would need to register. So yeah, that's kind of the difference.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I'll just dive right in, right? So, you know, if you look at surveys of what the least popular jobs are in the world.
The least popular terms.
Yes. Yeah. Lobbyist is at the top of that list.
As it should be.
So, you know, there's obviously a lot of bad rap. And so I guess I would ask you first, is some of that justified?
I think some of it is justified. Look, and I do want to point out, like, let me defend myself a little bit here. I think there's a huge difference between state level lobbyists and federal lobbyists too. Like, I think, you know, I think people tend to look at government and politics and the first thing they always think about is national, federal level politics and government. When the funny part is, as we all know very well, the things that really impact people's daily lives are mostly decided at the state and local level. Like I think it's easy for people to get fired up about stuff happening at the federal level. And then, you know, you get into the buzzwords, especially in today's day and age, like registered lobbyist for big pharma or for like, you know, a various number like the Communist Party or like, because they're actually at the federal level, that does exist. At the state level, still justified in some cases because obviously when you're getting paid by a company or an interest group to represent their interests, that's what you're doing. You're trying to push their agenda at the state legislature. And so depending on what your views are on a certain topic, that's why I think lobbyists get a bad rap.
So before Earl asks you softball questions.
Oh, wow. Just zinger right off the bat.
How do you
Let's go.
So you're obviously an attorney. I know that you're incredibly brilliant and you are hard to argue with.
And he says you're
He's
coming with the
trying to get-
softballs.
Yeah,
he says
look
you're
at
coming
him.
with the
I'm sucking
softballs.
up to you.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
hear a loud
But why are you so
sound.
awful? No, I'm kidding.
Why are you actually terrible?
So what I do want to know though is like, how do you go? You're an attorney. How did you decide to go into this industry? Because you understand politics. You know that you get a bad rap in the job. So why this gig?
Just all money.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
all
kidding. Actually, I think that's an interesting question because I think there's kind of this life cycle of people who kind of work in politics and government, especially at the state level. I was kind of your typical use case, right? So I was in college at Purdue. I came and interned at the state legislature, which I'm from Northern Indiana. I had never spent much time in Indianapolis at all.
Go Northern Indiana.
Go Northern Indiana. Go Lake County.
Talent still comes down here though. Yep, right.
That's exactly
'Cause
right.
we're trying to help
or
you.
we go to Chicago. We can talk about that later. I always thought I would end up in Chicago, but I decided to come down here, intern at the legislature, and then I joined the legislative staff after I graduated, and then I went to law school, and I like a lot of legislative assistants do at the state house. So when you kind of like work your way through that pipeline, you just become entrenched in this world, and it's kind of like a natural fit to become a lobbyist after that. But I kind of deviated a little bit from that because I did want to practice law, and I do practice law, and that's a huge part of my career too. Knowing what I know about government and politics, I wanted to make sure that state house piece was still ingrained into what I was doing. And for me, the natural outgrowth of that was to continue lobbying. And in my legal practice, I'm a regulatory and administrative lawyer. So I represent a lot of the same clients on the legal side and the lobbying side, and I help them with government compliance, basically. So it kind of all weaves itself together. Now, I'm not, a lobbyist like a lot of other people. A lot of people are, full-time lobbyists and are not lawyers too. But I think it's most people I know that get into lobbying do it as an outgrowth of some former type of government service, and it's just a world that they've become familiar and comfortable with. And a lot of us are friends. We become comfortable with each other too. And so I think it's just kind of this natural progression that leads you there.
So let's get into what life of a lobbyist is. During session, there are more lobbyists in the building than there are of us elected officials.
days.
What's a day like for you being a lobbyist at the State House?
Yeah, so like I said, mine can be a little different just because I'm also a lawyer. So during session for me especially, I kind of feel like I'm doing two different jobs. I'm at the State House all day, but I'm on my laptop all the time doing my legal job too. And there are a lot of us that do that. But day to day, I think this is a lost art. More lobbyists need to be at the State House all day, every day again. I feel like this has really shifted over time. And I was actually just talking to a great colleague of mine, another lobbyist, Mike O'Brien, the other day, and we were talking about how the hallways get so empty in the afternoon. It back in the day, not going to date myself, but a long time ago when I was on staff, all the lobbyists were there all the time. And the whole point was for all of us to be in the building together because, as you guys know, that's the best way for us to communicate and collaborate and get things right. And so I find a lot of value in actually being there because then I can me and you do it all the time because we work on a lot of issues together. You'll catch me in the hallway and say, "Oh, I heard this. What do you know about this?" Yeah. And that's kind of how, right? Yeah. That's how we advance things. And so day to day, I try to be at the State House a lot during session just because I think it's productive and good for my clients. It's the best way for me to know what's going on. And I think it's the fastest way for everything to get done because we can just be there on site communicating with each other.
You're talking about strategy. Sorry, Earl. Just trying to
go ahead. You
get
take
a word in here.
So, I actually have legitimate questions.
I have a legitimate question.
Tell me about yourself.
So
I feel like this is an interview.
Allie, you've talked a little bit about. This is part of my question, right? This idea of being present is part of the gig, right? What is how do you develop a strategy when you've got an issue without a specific issue? Because we're going to talk about iGaming, I suspect. But
I thought I was going there next.
No, not yet. Let's keep talking about the day-to-day life.
So,
how do you develop a strategy on how to move a topic that you're advocating for through the process?
That's a great question. It can lead right up to iGaming because iGaming is a perfect example of that. It's something we've been working on for years. And I think the very first thing you have to do is and I think some lobbyists are better at this than others, setting expectations for your clients. Because as you both know, I'm as aggressive as they come. Like, I will work my butt off to get something done on behalf of my clients, but being realistic with your clients at the outset, like, is this an issue that's going to happen in 1 year? Like, is this an issue that might take 5 or 6 sessions to like really educate the legislature on and like push to get them there? I think that's step one. You got to set expectations, because then you can feel comfortable knowing that you have a runway, because a lot of stuff, you know, hinges on your ability to educate masses of legislators. Like, there's some lobbyists out there, which, you know, props to them. They might have a great relationship with one person in leadership and they feel like they can hang their hat on that and they don't need to go and educate every other member. I don't really do that. I want to meet with every member and really make my case. Like, even if members are not on the committees that like I namely need for one issue, I think it's so important to make sure that at least like a critical mass of legislators know what your issue is, know what you're advocating for, and that's really the first piece for me, besides setting expectations. So like education. So set expectations, educating the masses on, you know, your issue and why it's a positive move for the state of Indiana. I think even outside of gaming, which is a public policy issue, like everything comes down to public policy. You have to tell legislators why what you're asking them to do is a good public policy move. Like, I want to make it easy for you guys to say yes, because I want to tell you why I think it's good for the state of Indiana. Now, I also am very lucky to work for clients that I actually believe in, industries I actually believe in. I literally am the most random lobbyist ever. It's like gaming, gambling, and nonprofits. Those are like literally my 2 client bases. Very random, very weird, but like I believe in all of it. And so I actually can go sell their story. And so then once you're done with the educating, that's when you start advocating. So like you educate and then you advocate. And I think advocating is a little bit more strategic in that like you're going to the particular committee members, you're figuring out who should carry your legislation. You're trying to whip votes. You're trying to know like who's going to vote which way, which committee path is it going to take. In gaming, we're always going to get recommitted to Ways and Means. So we always have 2 stops before the floor. So it's really, I think, educating, advocating, and then you're just like, then you're really in the game and you're whipping
You probably got the
votes.
same experience with her, that she will tell me what the other side is going to say.
Yes.
Which is good. And we
Which is
talked
good.
about that before.
And I asked that
knowing like that they're willing, a lobbyist is willing to share the alternative argument, but then she goes, but now I'm going to destroy that argument.
But now I'm literally going to
now
just
I'm going to tear it
dismantle the
apart.
entire
Yeah,
thing.
which she does.
She does very well.
Thank
I've
you.
learned that.
But I actually do think that's really important. And like, if you like have any sort of respect for or like care for, like, I'm with 2 people who I consider my friends, and I consider a lot of legislators my friends too. So I care about you guys, and I want you to be prepared for what the pushback could be. Like, I don't want to put you in a position where like you come out and getting attacked on social media for voting yes on my bill.
Yeah.
And so I always think that's a very important part of like the education piece. Like, we want to have respect. Well, I want to have respect for the legislators that I'm working for, and understanding that especially the issues that I work on the public policy side can be divisive. But let me show you what I think they're going to say and how exactly you can respond to that, because there is a response. Now, if there's a lobbyist out there telling you there is no good response, then just run.
Time to move on.
Yeah.
You know, you said something that was actually part of my first campaign, or has been part of my campaign, is relationships equal resources. And that's exactly what you say as a lobbyist you have to have.
100%.
So let's focus on one of the areas that you focus on, because it's in my area. I have East Chicago Gary Hammond. So when you look at Ameristar, Hard Rock, and Horseshoe, I have 3 casino cities.
You are like literally the casino legislator.
I am the casino legislator. That's why we get along so
I
well.
love this about you.
Thank you.
That seems like a title you probably don't
Yeah, I know.
want.
Well, just for this show, but
This
nobody's
man
watching.
literally has
Nobody's
3
watching.
casinos in his district.
Yeah,
Like, how did that happen?
I've got none. Should we talk about that?
Maybe you should.
Maybe there's a message there.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into that. When you are working on policy that has to do with casinos, because some people see it as sin. Let's just be real.
Yes.
There's people
They
who say
do?
that. No comment from you.
They do?
Well,
Oh my God, I didn't
occasionally,
know.
yeah, you know.
Well, as we drove in here, there's a banner that says repent. So
Yeah.
I think
like
it's okay that we
it's
talk
like
about it.
hell is real.
Don't listen to
And
Allie.
it's literally
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's you. Talk to us about working in that realm. And as you said, you have to educate legislators, and a lot of them, is whatever that percentage is, a number, you know are always going to be no's.
Yeah. This is like my favorite part of working on gaming issues. And I've said this to both of you. For anybody out there who didn't know this, I actually am a Republican. And not
I think
a
everybody
secret.
knows that. Yeah.
And you're our third Republican on the show.
Yeah, you guys are really knowing how to pick them. I like that a lot.
Well, you said you were free this morning, so.
No. It was
That's
me.
how we ended up hosting this.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly.
It was actually me lobbying to get on this show. Actually,
shows
was
your
the thing.
effectiveness. I
I'm
She is
suppose.
good.
super effective.
You
Look,
are.
I'm here, so call me if you need
When
a
she knew
lobbyist.
she didn't need 2 votes either. She just needed 1. That's how it goes.
Actually, you both are on committees, but
Yes,
we'll
that's
leave that
true.
aside for
That's
now.
true. That's true.
No, and so it's actually really funny because I get
Yeah.
that question all the time. Like, I kind of came up in Republican politics, like so involved in Republican politics. They're like, how'd you get involved in gaming?
Mm-hmm.
Because people like don't associate gaming with Republicans. It's kind of the opposite, I guess,
Yeah.
just because it's so conservative. But the funny part is, it's like, this is a true story. And I am someday going to write like an op-ed about this and why gaming is actually a Republican issue and should be. Because I got into gaming because in law school, I was the president of the Federalist Society. Big shocker. And I wanted to write a law review article about the 10th Amendment, federalism. And at the time, the United States Supreme Court was hearing the case to overturn a federal law that disallowed the states from legalizing sports betting. And spoiler alert, the Supreme Court did wind up overturning the law on the basis of the 10th Amendment. And so I wrote my law review article about that case. And gaming is actually the most perfect example of federalism at work because, little known fact, gaming is fully legalized and regulated on a state-by-state basis. There is almost no federal oversight of commercial gaming at all. And so I think it's just a prime example of the 10th Amendment in action and at work. And so I wrote my law review article about that. And then subsequent to it being published, the Supreme Court overturned that case. And so then all of a sudden, this influx of like gaming companies wanted people to lobby to legalize sports betting in Indiana, which we did in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Great move for the state. We regulated and legalized something that was already happening and really helped to bring out a black market into a regulated market, which is the entire argument for legalization of new forms of gaming. So that's how I got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I deal with what you were talking about, which is, this concept that there are a handful of members in the legislature, which I think this is changing as there's more turnover, there's younger people, like that sort of thing. But there are still people that just will never vote yes on gaming. They will always vote no, no matter how compelling an argument it is. But that's part of why I like it, because gaming is one issue where I'm always going to need bipartisan support. Yeah. And I like working, shocking, with both sides of the aisle. And so I really, really like working on issues that I know I'm going to need Democrat votes. Like I'm, one of the few that gets to do that because there's always going to be a handful of people. Some are Democrats too that will vote no. But I think that's really fun. So I like that.
So
First of all, thanks for looking at me when you
just
said
keeps
younger
cutting me
members.
off.
That was your
she-
question.
She meant me.
He was
She
like-
answered
She was
your
talking
question.
me. I have a follow-up to that. That's
You were
how
like
this
the
works.
original younger member.
Thank you very
Like
much.
people,
I'm the
he was
OG
like
of younger
OG.
members.
My
No,
God.
he really is. Like
This
he really is.
Is the last
He's just
season.
mad
I
as
think
look-
actually
This is the
this
last
is the last.
season.
No, this is the last episode. This is the last.
No, we
episode.
actually
We're
have
done
another one
after
scheduled.
this.
So
Yeah, we gotta
we
shoot
have
one
Wait,
more
no,
today.
one more.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: we have to shoot multiple episodes a day because there's no time to do anything.
Spoiler alert.
All
right.
I'd like to turn the floor to you.
I thank you,
The OG
Representative
younger
Johnson.
member.
The
Thank
OG
you.
younger.
So, continuing the train of conversation with gaming, Mr. Johnson, how is it going in terms of iGaming? I know this is something you and I have talked about for years. So, I know there's legislation going on this year. Tell us about iGaming and where things are.
Thank you so much for asking. So
Well, you
excited
lobbied me to ask
talk
that
about
question.
this. Did I? Hey, I'm good at my job. Again,
You
call
are.
me if you need a lobbyist. But I actually think iGaming is like a really good bill to talk about, like that kind of gives context to like how session goes in general
Sure.
and gaming in general, because crazy things happen with gaming bills, like about when they live or die and what happens. I mean, crazy things. So iGaming in particular, I was talking about this a little bit in the context of sports betting. The whole pitch for iGaming is that if I literally pulled out my phone right now, I would literally do it right now and Googled play poker online. You can absolutely do that on your phone right now. There are a million ways to do it. You can do it. You can play blackjack. You can play slots. 100% accessible. Now, it is also 100% illegal in the state of Indiana. No one knows that because it's super easy to do it, but it is 100% illegal. And so the problem is that the operators online where you can do it right now, they're black market operators. They have no regulatory scheme. They have no oversight from the Indiana Gaming Commission or the state of Indiana. Indiana is making no tax dollars off of those websites, but they're happening all day, every day. The American Gaming Association came out with a study a couple years ago that estimated the size of the black market in the U.S. at over $300 billion a year. And that's the entire United States. And that's probably a low end estimate because it's hard to estimate the size of a black market.
Real quick, does that also mean with no regulation, with no oversight,
Yeah.
they could also just be stealing your money?
They actually are.
Yes. It's not like you're playing a fair game of poker or anything like
No,
that, right?
they are like, there is zero technology oversight. So like if you have a regulated, legalized iGaming market, that's a great point. Like one of the many regulatory requirements is that their technology meet certain standards within the gaming industry. So like I have a client that their entire business is testing the integrity of gaming technology to make sure that they're randomly number generated, that they maintain that integrity of randomness. So that's just one element of it. Funny story, my own brother is a degenerate and plays online poker all the time. So we got into like an argument and he's like, it's not illegal. Like I do it every day. And I'm like, no, it is illegal.
That's not the definition of what's legal.
You're just doing it every day. So we get in this argument. He's like, no, there's no way it's illegal. Like I can literally do it so easily. I'm like, no, trust me, it's illegal. Like I'll literally show you
This
the
is
law.
literally my career.
Literally my entire career. Like,
Sounds like your
okay,
family's
right
like
here.
mine. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
this is actually what I do. I'm like,
They're like,
you
wait,
know
what
what
do
I'm
you do?
talking about.
Like what? No, okay.
You don't
You just went to fancy
Politics.
dinners
You
all
don't
the
know
time.
anything. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. So have fun with that. Not 1 week later, he calls me and is like, Allie, like I uploaded like $500 to like my e-wallet on this account and it's like gone. And I was like, that sucks. This website is being run out of China. Like, what do you want me to
And
do
I
about
warned
that?
you.
He's like, I thought you were a gaming lawyer. I'm like, oh, now I'm a gaming lawyer.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's fun. Now I'm a gaming lawyer. There's nothing I can do because if
On
that
the next
were
episode, complexities of family.
wait, you guys really need to get a therapist up in here. Actually, there should be one like sitting right over there.
It's Jacob in the other room. Yeah.
Jacob, can you come in here? We have
And the
some
guy that looks like
problems.
David Duchovny, he'll come in.
Oh
too.
yeah, David Duchovny will come
We
in as
need
well.
to unpack some things actually. No, but
I'm
anyway.
glad I'm not the only one who has family members that make me go, ugh, you're not thinking.
No. That's another episode. We
Yeah.
need to.
That's all
Okay,
right.
we'll dive in there.
Right.
Anyway, nothing I can do for my brother. He's out $500 because if this were a legal, regulated website operator, we could call the Indiana Gaming Commission. We could call their, actual business, and they would have consumer protections in place. And we could call the payment company and all the things. All of those, companies and entities would then be licensed. Not to mention the fact that we would be collecting a massive tax revenue to support all of the good initiatives and programs that are funded by the state of Indiana. We can talk more about the budget after this because I think that's probably a topic of conversation. But I think, one thing that the speaker says a lot when we're talking about gaming, and I really respect this, he always says that we can't make gaming policy just on the basis of the revenue that could come from it, which I completely agree with, right? Like the revenue is very tempting in gaming. That sin, temptation, like, yes, it's very tempting. Like I think, there's market studies that have come out produced by the Indiana Gaming Commission and LSA associated with the iGaming bill, which the iGaming bill proposes to legalize iGaming and iLottery. I think all the same talking points apply. But, that revenue over, within 5 years could be upwards of $300 million in additional revenue every year to the state of Indiana. That's a lot of money. We should not make the policy on that basis. We should make a good public policy decision, and then if the revenue follows, it follows. I think iGaming is a good public policy decision for all the reasons I just said. Consumer protections, drawing people out of the black market, and, really the ability to just take something that's already happening and legalize and regulate it. And also, but that's, a lot of people will say, that's the same argument as marijuana.
I was literally about
Very
to say.
similar argument.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm sorry,
I could
it's
just copy and
cannabis.
paste this.
Cannabis.
Cannabis.
Let me get that right. It is a very similar argument, but what I would say and what I do say to legislators is that Indiana's already a gaming state. this is not a public policy shift to legalize a new delivery channel for gaming that we already have endorsed. We have 13 commercial casinos, a tribal casino, we have sports betting. The ship has sailed. The riverboat has sailed on gaming in Indiana. And so I think it's a good public policy move. It would also allow us to fully fund and create for the first time a robust, responsible gaming program in Indiana. We are one of the largest gaming states in the nation, which people don't often know, but I think we're number 4 or 5 in the nation. And we have no dedicated responsible gaming program, which is a problem. Like, we have no dedicated program where people can seek help for gambling addictions or other problems, financial problems, et cetera, associated with a gambling problem. I think that's really important. And regardless of what happens with iGaming, it should happen.
Representative Johnson, do you have a question?
I'd like to ask a question.
We
should be more in order, I think. So,
Order, point of order.
Point of order.
Yikes.
So let's talk about that. So obviously, one of the counter arguments to this is that the availability of a casino in your pocket will simply increase access to this addiction, that many people have, right? And that iGaming will make it even worse. You and I have talked that iGaming actually is safer.
Oh, yeah.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
100%. It's like I planted that question. I actually didn't. I do plant questions a lot on committees, as we know, but I did not
Doesn't
do
work
that.
on Johnson.
I've never received a text message from Allie.
Never me hey, can you please ask this question, please? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is a really dumb thing. Can you
Please,
please point out how dumb this is?
Yeah, exactly.
That is actually a great point. iGaming 100% can be safer for people than anonymous casino gambling. When you're in a brick and mortar casino, you can use cash and walk in and out and no one ever knows who you are. With online gaming, you have to go through what we call a KYC process, know your customer, where you have to prove your identity in multiple forms and fashions. And the KYC companies that do that are all licensed to do so. The Gaming Commission regulates them as well. So that's how deep this regulatory scheme goes, which is like my entire legal practice. And so then also you have to use an e-wallet. So you can track spending. You can set up limitations on yourself so that you can limit your spending. And then they can also, the companies can monitor your spending and say, hey, you've never spent $5,000 in one day. Is everything okay? Should we check on you?
It's like when you're watching Netflix, are you still watching?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Or have you been hacked?
Correct. Burning through your energy and data and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then they can send you a thing and be like, have you been hacked? Has your bank account been accessed by somebody? And there's also a lot of anti-money laundering technology that's in place when it's digital payments. But also, I want to go back to your point about the casino in your pocket, because I hear that a lot, especially on the right. And my response to that is there already is. It is right here. You can do it right now already.
Right.
So let's make it safer for people, because then you're going to end up like my brother and lose your $500 to China. And I'm going to be like, you're a Chinese communist lobbyist now because you just paid them $500.
I think we should have a rule that if anyone is name dropped in the show and they don't reach out to say thanks for the name drop, we should give them unmitigated crap for not listening.
Like my brother.
Idea.
Yeah, I mean, because so now your brother, if he doesn't reach out and say, hey, I heard you mention me, we should make there should be a list in the show notes of people who didn't reach out after.
Let's tag him.
Everyone's listening. So
just
if you're
call
not
them
listening, you are so behind.
You're literally so behind.
So behind. People,
100%.
Because you're not listening, you don't even know you're behind.
And you're
That's
actually
right.
not even doing
Did you
your
see what I
duty.
did there?
If you're a part of this industry and you're not listening to this podcast, you're out.
Can I ask one more question just on the counterpoints that are happening?
100%.
And then we can move on. I don't even know how much time we have. This has been...
we have a little bit of time, but we
Okay.
need to get ask your question.
There we go, David
Gosh,
Duchovny.
wait, this
that.
has gone way too
The
fast.
X-Files
We need more.
in the
Voice
house.
from above
Guys,
just
kick
gave
out
us-
whoever's coming next. I'm going to say.
Okay, well,
We'll
done.
do that.
We can make that decision. So the other argument, obviously, is that
This is the
going
extended
to.
edition of Sessions.
That's right. It's
After dark.
After dark.
yeah. It's the
After hours.
I've got. Sometimes there's too many jokes. We can't even get them all out. The other argument here is that the brick and mortar casinos are going to suffer, and the people are going to lose their jobs and all of that. And I've heard that. And I'm on the committee. I'm on public policy, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you say to that?
I say to that my clients are brick and mortar casino operators and they support iGaming because, first and foremost, a lot of the brick and mortar casino companies operate their own mobile or online platforms. So that is good for them. But the other thing that I will say, and secondly, for those that don't, they will be allowed to contract with independent iGaming operators. All iGaming will have to run through our state's brick and mortar casinos, just like sports betting. So they all have to be in partnership with one of our state's brick and mortar casinos, which in itself is profitable for our casinos. Secondly, this is a little known industry secret that I've learned in working in the gaming industry. The most valuable tool in the gaming industry for a gaming company is their marketing list, their ability to reach people that maybe they hadn't been able to reach otherwise. And so in partnering with the iGaming companies or operating their own iGaming platform, it allows them to reach people that they may never have reached before with cross-marketing opportunities. So for example, like let's say Hard Rock, you know, in your district, you know, they have somebody now playing on their platform that lives in Southeast Indiana, and they can offer them, oh, you've been a loyal customer, come see a show at our venue. Yeah. And that person that lives in Southeast Indiana may never have gone up to Gary, but now they've won this free ticket to a show. They're going to go visit the property. They're going to eat at the restaurants, and they're probably going to do other stuff while they're there in the city. So that's,
how was the Wiggles live, by the way?
Was it amazing?
Best ever.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm the only one here that doesn't have kids. So how did I end up at that show?
And that's why we have bags under our eyes.
Strange. It is strange.
So since we're less than 2 minutes left in the show, I want to get on to another thing you talked about. You talked about how you know, obviously gaming is a big part of what you do, but you actually also lobby for the education world with the Excel Centers. And because I'm on Ways and Means, and we had a marathon recent Ways and Means meeting. Talk to us about that part of it and about working to make sure that adults receive an education.
That was like the best softball, because listen, I love gaming and I will advocate through and through for the gaming industry.
That was a deep journalistic question.
100% so generalized, but the other half of what I do.
I said journalistic. She said she just twisted my words.
Yeah, I love it.
You said general. Journalistic. Also journalistic and generalized, not specific at all. But gaming and nonprofits, my two clients, because I just have to make myself feel better on the other side. The Excel Centers, I work with Goodwill. The Excel Centers are adult high schools that Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana started, and they have now partnered with Goodwill Industries across the entire state to bring these adult high schools. I think we have 26 locations now, all through, you know, funding from Goodwill, but also in partnership with funding from the state legislature. The high schools, I think, are so critical because we have, as you guys have heard probably Governor Holcomb and now Governor Braun say repeatedly, we have a large number of Hoosiers without high school diplomas. Yeah. The Excel Centers offer full high school diplomas. So it's not a GED, it's not an equivalency, which there has been shown in data, studies done by the University of Notre Dame, actually, right here in Indiana, that obtaining a full high school diploma versus a GED or an equivalency makes a real impact on people's ability to have meaningful employment and then eventually to get off of public assistance. And so what that study allowed us to see was the actual ROI on the state's investments in the Excel Centers, because it gave us an actual tangible dollar amount that we could say for every dollar invested into adult education through the Excel Centers, which is a full high school diploma, here's how much the state is saving on like eventual public assistance, which is super impactful. It's over $20 to one. And so we've graduated thousands of people from the Excel Centers at this point. The one thing to keep in mind is like under the budget structure, which we're getting like kind of technical here, but the budget dictates how many seats they can have at each of their schools. And so strategically to grow or open new schools, they have to come back to the legislature and ask for more seats or more funding to open them. And so we want to continue to serve Hoosiers at the highest level and make sure that ROI is coming back to the state.
And there was a great story told by a gentleman whose life was off track and he was doing a lot of bad stuff, and how he's gotten life together. He's professional, he's married, kids, law-abiding student. So it was a great example of what the Excel Centers can do. And I want to get real quick. I know we're almost out of time, and Blake probably has a question or two.
I have one more question.
We'll get to him eventually.
Maybe.
So let's talk about that real quick, is the showing up and presenting in Ways and Means, you as a lobbyist, or registered lobbyist,
Registered lobbyist.
and the people that you represent.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So that is like testifying in committee is always like a really big balance for me. I think there are a lot of times when people are just snap like, oh yeah, we need to testify. I think about it first. First and foremost, I always like to have my clients there to testify instead of me doing it for them if I can help it. Like, they are the ones to tell their stories. I always say that to my clients. Like, I want to be there when you can't be there, but like if I can help my clients make relationships with you guys, like that is the best thing that can happen, because they are the experts, and I want them to have access to you, but I want you guys to have access to them too, because like they have the real day-to-day knowledge. Testifying though for me is like always, are we going to really accomplish something with the testimony, or like is this just for show? Now with like the budget, for example, the budget this year, I don't know if you guys knew this, kind of unique budget year in Indiana. You know, I'm just here trying to give the state hundreds of millions of dollars to iGaming, but I'm just saying, kind of a unique budget year.
And that's a lobbyist.
Yeah, I'm just out here trying to give you guys that anyway. So because of the uniqueness, I did want them to come and testify and just kind of present their ask and like let the whole committee know the good work that they're doing in the state of Indiana. Because like I work with you a lot on it. You know about the Excel centers. You guys both have them in your districts, but everybody else might not. And so I just wanted them to have exposure to that. And just like I said before, like I want to make it easy for you guys to vote yes on something when I know how great it is. But like you guys have a million people meeting with you every day. Like I know how awesome my client is. I know they deserve that funding, but like you're meeting with 20 other people during the day that think the same thing about their clients. And so that's the importance of it to me.
It's interesting, you know, we talk about wanting to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit in the legislature, and the precision of testimony is like a really interesting thing that we could probably spend an entire episode on. Just sometimes not testifying is the better move.
100%.
And if you have the wrong person testify, it can really hurt you
100%.
as well. Like I've been in committee hearings where
we have seen that.
the wrong person gets up and they do not stick to the script. So I think of a lobbyist or even an advocacy group as thinking, okay, just more people testifying is the solution.
Just get all the people.
More.
We saw
like,
that yesterday.
It's almost never. That's almost never the right move.
No.
Especially not when you're dealing with a supermajority, right?
No.
Like, so if you're on the opposite side of that, precise testimony, constructed arguments is far more effective, and you can win. You can actually win in that circumstance if you're smart about it. My final question for you, Allie, is that.
Wait, I need to add something in. No, sorry.
That's actually funny. That was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Do I really do that? So
he actually asked that question.
One of the things that it was kind of alluded to earlier is that you also do commentary. Like you are on TV representing a Republican agenda, and
which is not as fun as this show.
No, I mean this is
pinnacle.
Highbrow. This is really highbrow stuff. So. I think
is that because you're wearing new shoes today?
I am wearing, thank you
oh,
for
you
noticing.
did get the new shoes.
I got the new
Dang
shoes.
It.
Yes.
I was totally gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm like,
shout out
Mitch
to
Gore.
Representative Mitch Gore.
That's right, Mitch Gore got me the
and your
shoes.
socks. I
I
mean,
think
those
we're in
are.
his district right now. Actually,
we are. I think.
We are.
Yeah. He's been invited.
Yeah.
So
I hit a nerve.
So my question is really that, like, you know, the divisions are growing larger. It seems the extremes are getting louder, and I'll say that on both sides.
100%.
I think your side's a little crazier, but
how did I know?
But you're out there, and oftentimes you are trumpeting.
Did you need to say it like that?
Yeah, I guess an argument, and you're on TV, and I think people see the media as a really big problem and building this divide. And you know, I mean, you'll be on TV sometimes, and I'll send you a message. I'm like, what is that? What are you doing? Like, do you really believe this? I don't understand. But so I guess I would have you just speak to that. Like, you're a thoughtful person. You care about smart public policy, but you also do this other role that can be seen as creating greater divides. So how do you sleep at night?
How do you actually live with yourself is the question.
I tried to find the most elegant way to ask.
I actually think it's a really good question, and you're right. Like I believe in a variety of viewpoints, and my first priority always is good public policy. And I think that with my clients, I think that personally, and I have a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, as you guys know, and they all line up to say, what the hell are you talking about all the time, which is amazing. What I try to do, and you know, the reason I continue to be a part of that type of commentary. Now, not to say that I am not guilty of trumpeting talking points, because we are all guilty of that. I absolutely do it. What I try to do is bring at least a little bit of perspective to some of the issues when I'm talking about them. Sanity. Maybe not as boldly as I would like if I had, an hour to talk about it every day, but I have these little 30-second news clips that come out most of the time, or, 3 minutes max, like when I'm on some of the indie news shows. But what I try to do is whenever I'm having these, because they're always in a debate format most of the time.
Yeah.
I want to be diplomatic always. I was actually just telling Representative Harris before we started, I have a news segment this afternoon on Wish TV, and I'm always paired up with the same Democratic person on the other side. Shout out to Dana Black. And it's so funny because we are very good friends, me and Dana, and we are always talking and laughing and we're having camaraderie. We can go head to head when we're on our show, but after the show, we go and actually talk about the issues and our true beliefs. And I don't think we don't reflect our true beliefs on the show. But we also only have 3 minutes, and so we can only say so much.
There's no nuance. Yeah.
What I think I like to do with those things is if you follow me on social media or whatever, I try to post them and then post additional thoughts, and try to just use it as a conversation starter, if nothing else. You are 100% correct that media is drawing so much divisiveness in this country right now. I think the best thing that we can all do is engage in the conversations with our friends, engage in the conversations with our families and communities, and be real people, because the media is not real. It's none of that. None of that is real. And even when you are real, even when you're a part of the media and you're trying to be real, it's 3 minutes. You cannot accurately reflect realness and your real thoughts and feelings in 3 minutes. What I hope it does is that it starts conversations where people can be real with each other. I think that's the only way we move forward as a country. We have got to get back to a sane middle ground. I'm going to say it. You heard it here first. Here's your hot take from this podcast. The middle is better. Let's all move that way.
There's our real clip for the show.
100%. Right. And there you go.
All right, I think you close us out today.
Yes, I'm going to.
Because I've talked too much.
Thank you for allowing me to close out the show that I started. Allie Bartlett, this has been a lot of fun. Yes. I've been looking forward to this. I'm so glad you lobbied us
I'm
to be
so
on
glad
the
I
show.
could lobby so hard to get myself on this show.
She is not being paid for her time on the show.
No, she's not.
No one is being compensated here.
Thing.
And you know what's going to happen is she's going to lobby us next month to be back on the show. And we'll say,
she's just why just add another chair?
Add another chair.
Add another chair.
Yeah.
I think you need a third host.
Yeah.
I think
need
we
a
could
woman.
squeeze it in the show.
We'd be super majority.
Are we
Democrat?
Democrat
there you go.
episodes. Yeah.
I think
we don't know
great.
what that's like.
Do we need a couch? We need a couch.
We need a couch.
We need
And coffee.
And you needed a woman anyway. So this is
and then we're
perfect.
going to go to a warmer lighting setup. I mean, the whole thing.
Guys, comment, subscribe, and if you're in your comments, let them know if I should be a permanent host.
Right. We needed some other more diversity on the show.
Exactly.
Thank you for providing that.
That's
I got you.
I won't even go there. I'll keep that away. Anyway, thank you for
Let's
being
not go there.
on the show. We have been joined today by the wonderful Allie Bartlett. She is with Bose Public Affairs Group. She is a registered lobbyist and has given us some more in-depth into what happens at the State House on the side of the lobbying part in terms of talking to us legislators about getting bills passed, or in sometimes also stopping bills. So thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it. Tune in next time. Have a good day.
See ya.